Hey, this is Cliff from Duckspro Waterfowl Shop. This is the blog. I'm going to do a commentary on a post that I made of what makes a good duck call. I get asked this a lot by new duck hunters. People want to get into duck hunting. They say what makes a good duck call? And I say, man, there's a lot of stuff that goes into a duck call, into making it something that sounds like a duck, that makes it good. There's a lot of bad duck calls out there. A lot of people that make calls that shouldn't be making calls, that are selling these calls, and people are buying them, and they sound like crap. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what makes a good duck call. And if, this is, like I said, this is the commentary. If you would like to follow along with what I'm talking about, I'll put a link in the description in the video, and you can follow along on the site, basically everything that's written. But anyways, we're gonna get started. So what makes a good duck call? And like I said, I talk to new duck hunters, or people who want to know more about duck calls because they watch Duck Dynasty or whatever the reason, and they want to know what makes a good duck call good. And but anyways, this post is geared mainly toward the duck hunter, because because what I'm attempting to explain here is crucial for the hunter that wants to sound like a duck. Not all duck calls are created equal, and hopefully I'll give you some kind of knowledge that allows you to make an educated purchase when you buy your first call over 30 bucks. So let's get started. We have introduction to the duck call. Duck calls are not rocket science. They consist of three main components that, when used together with your breath of life, should create a sound that sounds somewhat like a duck. Hopefully, right? That's the whole point of blowing a duck call. Want to sound like a duck. And the three components are the mouthpiece, the insert, and the reed. And these three parts, they're all crucial when it comes to duck calls. Without even one of these parts, the duck call is going to be garbage. It's going to be just a plastic paperweight, worthless. And you need all three to function. They come in different colors, size, shape, materials. We'll go over all of these in a bit. So how does a duck call work? It's simple, or not so much, depending on the person. You put the duck call to your mouth, like you're drinking a bottle of Coke or something, and you create a seal with your lips. And you want to direct air from your diaphragm into the call. And you want to do this without puffing out your cheeks, and you want to do it in controlled bursts. This is what creates quacks. Lots of people like to say words into the call to create their quacks. I, for one, use the word tin, or maybe tit. And when you control your airflow and say one of these simple words, you create a quack. And I'm not going to go into great detail of all the different duck language in this post, because that's a whole different story. But anyways, that's how you create a quack. And here, I got my Ducklander call, my Ducklander con artist. And with what I just told you, I'm gonna say the word tit into my call, and this is what my quack sounds like when I say that into the call with my controlled air coming from my diaphragm. So anyways, that's what my quack sounds like. Everybody's quack might have a little bit of variation, this and that. But anyways, that's the gist of it. That's mostly what my quack sounds like. But anyways, moving on. I feel like we should talk about the insert first. The insert of a good duck call. There are different parts of the insert, and here, I'll list them for you. First, you got the tone board, then you got the tone channel, then you got the spit grooves, and not all duck calls have this, but Ducklander calls, they do have the spit grooves. Next, you have the wedge, and the only thing this thing does is it holds the reed in place. And next, you got your O-ring, or O-rings. Some calls use multiple, and that's what keeps the call airtight. Because when you put the insert into the barrel, you want it to be airtight when you blow air over the reed. And then lastly, you got the end piece with the exhaust port. And the most important part of the insert, in my opinion, and I'm sure others agree, is the tone board. The tone board, when coupled with the reed, is what makes the sound of the duck call. The tone board also has a curvature. And this curvature is very important, and I want to emphasize that. It's very important in creating the sound that sounds like a duck. The curvature of the tone board helps direct your airflow over the reed to produce sound. The right curvature is crucial, as I'm sure you can imagine. Air and the reed is what creates the sound, so the component that directs the air is the tone board, and I'm sure you get the idea that that's important. Many duck calls out there, mainly in the small-time custom market, and there's quite a few of these. Seems like everybody and their grandmother has a duck call making business these days. But anyways, some of these call makers, they don't understand the concept of the tone board for some reason, and yet they're selling these calls and they don't sound good. They sound like crap. But anyways, a lot of these call makers, they don't understand the concept of the tone board. And maybe, you know, they're new call makers getting their feet wet, perfecting their design, in which they shouldn't be selling the call yet, or maybe they just flat out shouldn't be making calls. And don't get me wrong, there are lots of custom call makers out there that make an incredible call and are very good at what they do. 3 of my favorites, and this is my own personal honest opinion. This is one of the reasons why I chose to sell these calls. 3 of my favorites is Ducklander calls, Feet Down Wings Cupped, FDWC, and Saint calls. Duckspro Waterfowl carries their calls because they are excellent calls. And we only carry products that we would personally use, and I personally do use them. And so this isn't a sales pitch, it's just flat out the truth. These call makers, though, they understand the importance of the tone board and reed tuning well, and therefore they create top-notch sounding calls. And their calls are sold to hundreds of people all over the US and Canada, and I have yet to hear a bad review from, say, a Ducklander call. I mean, that's how good they are. But anyways, moving on, next we have the tone channel on the tone board. This is the groove that's drilled into the insert, which lets the air you blow into the call escape out the exhaust once it vibrates the reed. Without this, you would have no sound because the call would be airtight and air would not be able to vibrate the reed. It would be like blowing into an empty bottle of Coke or something. The air would fill the chamber and it wouldn't go anywhere. The tone channel, it allows the air to pass through the call over the reed, which allows the reed to vibrate and create your sound. That's what the tone channel's for. And it's kind of hard to mess it up. Call makers can't really mess this up. I mean, it's just a hole drilled into your insert at the given depth, depending on the call design. And so like I said, it's not hard, just a hole drilled. And anyways, next we have the spit grooves, which, like I said, very few calls have this. Ducklander calls is the only call that I carry that actually has the spit grooves. Basically, all they do is they manage your spit. So when you blow into the call, and the condensation from your breath, or you spit into the call, or whatever you do, spit grooves try to manage that and keep it out of the tone channel so that you get a consistent, nice call whenever you blow it. You get a nice duck sound every time. And anyways, and that's about it for the spit grooves. And like the wedge and the O-rings, those are pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, the wedge, it just holds the reed there. If you have more cork sticking out, it can cause the reed to vibrate a little different, give you a different sound. I like to cut my cork, the wedge. I like to cut it flush with the where it sits inside the insert. And the O-rings, I mean, the manufacturers don't make their own O-rings. They buy them, they stick them on the insert. End of story. There's not much to that. I'm not going to even go any further into that. Anyways, moving on. We have the reed. Next is the reed. Basically, the reed is what vibrates. That's what creates your sound, etc. I mean, basically, you have 3 different reed types now. You got single reed, double reed, and now you have the triple reed. I've never even used a triple reed call. I don't even know if I will. It's just not something that I've ever been interested in trying out. I don't carry them. Probably won't carry them. I use single and double reed interchangeably, whatever. So, anyways, If you want to read more about the difference though between single and double reed calls, I'll also put a link in the video in the description below, and you can check out an article that was written, the difference between single reed versus double reed calls. Hopefully you'll find that educational. It'll answer your question if you have questions about that. Anyways, moving on from the reed, we're going to move on to the mouthpiece, or the barrel of a duck call. The mouthpiece should be comfortable for you to blow. If you put it to your lip and it's cutting your lip off, well, I mean, obviously you're not going to buy the call, right? It's not comfortable. You're not going to be able to blow it good. Get a call that has a mouthpiece that's going to be comfortable for you. The barrel bulk of a call, it comes in many shapes and sizes and colors. Really fat calls are sometimes heavy, require 2 loops. I don't ever have that problem. Slim calls can sometimes be unbalanced. Again, I don't really have that problem either. I don't really feel this takes away from the performance of the call, but it can be user preference. If you look at the image at the top of the page, you can see 3 different shapes of duck calls. Also on the YouTube video here, you'll be able to see the 3 different shapes that are pretty common, popular with call makers. And another thing, sometimes the barrels can be elaborately detailed with engraving and etching. Again, this adds 0 performance to the call, but it's a lot of eye candy. I like my calls to look and sound good. You can also find branding on the barrels. It's all common practice. Lastly, we're going to have the color and the material of a good duck call. There's been debate on the color. I've heard it both ways. Some people say that transparent plastic colors create a softer sound, while opaque, or if you don't know what opaque means, colors, plastic you can't see through. Opaque plastics create a sharper, bold sound. If that's the case, my ears can't pick up the difference. Some people say that they can see a difference. I can't, so I'll leave that up to you. However, the material, though, is a different story. Most duck calls these days are made out of 4 different materials, with the 4th one that I'm going to say being the most recent addition. Basically, you have woods, you have polycarbonate, acrylic, and Delrin. Woods are the most traditional, and different woods give you different sounds. Almost none are comparable to acrylic, though. Maybe the only one that may even come close is African blackwood. Me personally, I haven't used African blackwood. I don't know too many call makers that use it. Most people use hedge or Coca-Cola. But anyways, so you got wood. Woods also have their drawbacks. They're porous. Moisture makes the wood swell and can often deteriorate sound quality. They also change with the temperature, so and over time they can also crack. Next, we have polycarbonate duck calls, and they're the mainstream bulk manufacturer's way of making a lot of duck calls for a really cheap price. You can find these calls mainly in places like Walmart, Cabela's, and other bulk retail stores. They're cheap, usually priced around $20 to $30, and thus reflect that in their sound. Some polycarbonate calls have an okay sound that can get the job done, though. They're geared for the budget duck hunter that may or may not have money for a higher end acrylic. Some popular polycarbonate calls that have decent sounds exist in the brands of Zinc, Buck Gardner, Duck Commander, and Banded. But again, they're all mass-produced, mold-injected, cheap plastics. Next, we got Delrin. It's the newest addition to the duck call material realm. It's a better quality plastic than polycarbonate, and it often gives a better sound. It's usually, priced a little higher, usually between $30 and $50. But you get a better value with Delrin. The sound quality to price ratio is better than polycarbonate, and to be honest, I would rate these as more of a mid-range duck call, whereas polycarbonate is more beginner bottom end, or bottom line. And next we have the high-end duck calls, which are usually made of acrylic, and you'll find most custom call makers use acrylics due to its amazing sound quality and durability. It's not affected by moisture and temperature fluctuations. It has a loud, crisp sound that good call makers can make sound almost like a real duck. And acrylic is the best material you can use at the moment for a duck call. The price point, it usually ranges between $80 and $150 depending on the call maker. But don't fool yourself, acrylic calls can also be ruined when you don't get proper tone board and or reed combination. Tone board being the most crucial. You can always retune a reed. It's very hard to customize the tone board for a good sound, especially if the call maker has already shaved too much material off the tone board, and that becomes unfortunate. Then the call is ruined and you have wasted your money. And like I said, your tone board should come from the manufacturer. Or the call maker. It should come ready to go out of the box. You shouldn't have to tinker with your tone board on your call when you get it. That should be tuned up, ready to go. And if it's not, the call maker should have never sold that call. And their quality control is crap. But moving on, we have the conclusion of what makes a good duck call. So I think we can all agree this was a fairly comprehensive guide as to what makes a good duck call. I covered pretty much everything about the insert. Like I said, not too much to the mouthpiece and the barrel. And other than that, really the only other part's the reed. Was it the most in-depth? Probably not. But I think I covered enough material to you to be able to understand the concept of a worthy duck call. Material plays a big part, but I think we can all agree that the tone board and the reed system is the most important. The tone board and the reed system tuning comes from experience of being a great duck call maker. Not all duck calls are created equal, and that goes for call makers as well. So if you want yourself a good duck call that will actually sound like a duck and give you years of good duck hunting, stick with quality call makers such as Ducklander, FDWC, Capital Waterfowling, St. Calls, many others, of which we all carry because they're good. And but if you choose not to buy one of these and you want to buy something else, make sure you ask what reed system does the call use. Make sure of what it's made of: acrylic, polycarbonate, Delrin, whatever. And above all else, read reviews. Read reviews of duck calls, because chances are you're not the only one who's bought the call. So make sure you read reviews. Read what other people have said about the call, other people who have bought it. Reviews often don't lie when it comes to customers being satisfied with their purchase. If they don't like it, hey, they're going to probably say it in the review. I read reviews all the time, and people are blunt. But if the majority of people say the duck call sucks, it probably does. If a lot of people are happy with their duck call, it's probably a reason why. So anyways, I hope you found the answer to your question of what makes a duck call good in this article. And above all, make sure it sounds like a duck first and foremost. And but anyways, thanks for checking out Duckspro Waterfowl. We appreciate your business. We appreciate you watching our videos, reading our articles. We appreciate everything. So if you want to get more insight, more tips, tricks, videos, whatever, subscribe to our channel, and we'll come out with it. If you want to buy some duck hunting stuff, make sure you check out our site. We just started in February of 2015, so we're still growing. We're still building our inventory base and this and that, acquiring new goods, new products from different manufacturers. So we're constantly growing. So make sure you check us out. You can like us on Facebook, Duckspro Waterfowl Shop. Search for us; we'll pop right up. And yeah. So thanks for watching. I hope I answered your question, and you make sure you have a good evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time of day it is in your part of the world. Have a good one. Thanks.